Hi, I'm Chris James, and you're watching Healthy Alternative. Today, I want to talk about the benefits of Michael, and today we're going to be talking about.
Today we'll be making one of my favorite soups.
Welcome to
creamy
the
tomato
JR72
soup.
challenge.
I am Animated Mel, and I am your mental and wellness coach. For
As always, perfection is not needed, but consistency.
We must
is
first lovingly accept what is. You can't heal a body you hate.
No matter what, you have to put yourself first. If you're not aware that there's change that needs to be made, how can you fix it? This information is fire.
I had to come to the realization that, number one, I was an emotional eater.
We need to accept the decisions that we make, because if we can do that, then we have the power to change them. You came here so that way you can start moving into your heaven path.
Once again, thank you very much. I appreciate
You. Good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. Hello. How's everyone doing? Hope you're doing well. We are, for those that are going to watch the replay, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're watching it. Hopefully you watch it within the next few days, so that way you kind of have a idea of the direction or the route that you are going to go. Someone can just give me a mic check. Just let me know you can hear me good. Everything looks good on my end. And we will get started. I've been doing my best to make sure that we get started on time. Hello, Gloria. Sheila, good to see you. Thank you. I'm going to say your name, but I'm going to mess it up. I want to say Aisha, but it doesn't, I mean, like, I know that it's not written that way. Maybe it's Aisha. Asha. I'm really good with names, but okay, good. Dave, hello. Ebony, Melly Mel, Ebony, Queen Parker. All right. JP, Sharon. All right, we got some people here. Joy, how y'all doing? Okay, good deal. Good deal. I was trying to give, I know Chris was on a Pam call, so I was trying to give him a minute or two to finish up, so that way some people that are on Pam could pop over. Shannon, how you doing? Always good to see you. Okay. That was genuinely funny. I can call you whatever. Oh man. That made my night. Sometimes, I don't know, man. Sometimes you need a little something like that. Oh my goodness, that completely threw me off. I started sweating and everything. Man. I know it's love. You know, the weird thing is, as we get ready to kind of move forward, I'll monologue for a second because it made me think of something. Like growing up, and maybe this will resonate with some people. But growing up, when I was young, like middle school, I was small then, and my mom was like, Steven, she always tells me like these stories of how I had all these little girlfriends, and she'd be like, oh, the little girls at school, they just love you, da 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 da. Right? Like growing up, guess apparently I was super flirty and whatever, girls loved me. And then as I grew up and I went into like, 8th grade and then into like high school, right? I started gaining weight, and then of course it just continued throughout pretty much until like my 30s. And it was so interesting because during that time I would not get compliments at all. I wouldn't get compliments. The only time I would get compliments on my voice is when I was singing, right? For some of you who don't know, as most of you probably don't know, I went to college on scholarship for vocal performance. So I used to sing. I was always told that I should be a radio host or a late night DJ or even a intimate phone operator, right? That was the thing back in the day. And that was the only time, people said anything. But in person, never got compliments, never had people staring at me or anything. And as I went through my journey and I started like losing weight and I started going to the gym and I started feeling better about myself, I noticed so many looks. People would treat me differently. I started getting, sing us a song. I started getting free stuff. Like I would get discounts. I would just ask for it. Like, hey girl, let me get a discount, right? She working around the register. Oh, okay, I give you 10%. I'll take it, right? Just little things like that. And it's just like little things like that. Now, for women, this may be a little different for you guys because that's the society we live in. Women get compliments all the time. Whether they like them or not, they get them. And it's a lot different for men. And when you're walking around 400 pounds, you're not getting a lot of compliments. So it actually started to get a little uncomfortable, right? Like when I was like going skating, right? When I first moved to Texas, I was skating a lot. And I would just have these girls like talk to me. And I'm like, maybe they just want to be my friends. Like, and it was so weird to get that type of attention. And it's a good thing, right? But things just start changing as you like lose weight. People look at you different, they treat you different, they speak to you different, right? There's a certain level of respect that they give you just simply because I don't remember if it was a movie or if I saw something on YouTube, and it was talking about how for men, being in shape is you walk into a room, and as a man, when you're in shape, other men and women just instantly respect you more, right? We do it unconsciously, right? You just automatically get respected more because people look at you and they're like, this person is very disciplined. This is a person who is disciplined enough to clearly go to the gym. They're probably eating well, right? They're very disciplined people. This is one of the reasons why people love hiring like ex-military people, veterans, right? So if you put in a job application, they ask you, are you a veteran? Right. One of the reasons is they want to know because a lot of jobs will give veterans preferential treatment. But then also it's just one of those things. So I used to be a manager at a sales company. And when people said that they were a veteran, I immediately thought this person is hardworking. They don't mind, doing this type of work, right? This is somebody that's going to be more disciplined than someone who is not necessarily a veteran, right? So we automatically think certain things about certain people simply because of the way that they look, right? When people look at you and I was 400 pounds, I'm assuming if I was being honest with myself, they're going to assume this guy's lazy. He's a slob. He doesn't care about himself. Why would he care about this job, right? When I was talking to women, they were like, well, look at him, how he treats himself. How is he going to treat me, right? These are things that I thought about. Life's a little different now. Life's definitely a little different now. So I don't know. It just made me think about that because sometimes now where I'm at in life, things have become normal. And I don't know, that comment just kind of took me back and I appreciate that. It grounded me, if that makes sense. Um, Trust me, I understand firsthand. I thought I was tripping back in the day. I assume any man I want, friends everywhere, but then I gained weight and I was like, what they see a monster, now I see it's changing. Okay, yeah. So weight loss is not just a benefit to there's going to be things that you benefit that you have no idea right now that you're going to have as a benefit in the future. There's going to be things that happen that you're not even you can't even imagine, and how it will positively impact your life. And I know it's hard to use that as motivation, because it's like, well, how is something going to motivate me that I don't even know is going to happen? But I promise you, your life changes. Not just your health, not just with the opposite sex or the same sex, right? Just in general, the way that people treat you and look at you, people, it's just a society that we live in, right? Um, Not gonna lie, I've seen a few ladies smiling more when I pass by. It's a good feeling. Tony, that's what I'm talking about, brother. That's what I'm talking about. It's a great feeling, especially if most of your life you haven't had that, right? If you haven't had that before, the crazy thing is, I don't know if he's here, but there's a guy that was in the group. He's in the DR96. I'm not gonna say his name, but we played football together in high school, and it was just so crazy that he messaged me in the first live, and he was like, "Bro, we used to play ball together, da 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 da." And I was like, "Oh my god, I remember you, right?" And I was like, "I was tackle." I was like, "You played linebacker." He was like, "Yep, right on your hip, right?" And it was so crazy, right? Small world, but back then. Now, granted, at that point in time, I had a great personality. And I obviously wasn't as big as I was in my largest, but um, I didn't have no girls. I had friends. They all wanted to be my friend, but nobody wanted to date me. And if he was here, he would tell you he never saw me in any relationships or anything because there were none. Um, anyway, so that was enough of my monologue. We only got about 30 minutes tonight. Well, 30 minutes of content probably. And I wanted to give some people some time to move over from Pam to come over here. And there's people that have been joining still, but we're gonna go ahead and get into things. Um, but I want to talk about what's next, right? So what do we do now? Now I know that there's a hashtag trending in the group right now. Not was it not finished crew? Uh Jobs not finished crew. Trending hashtag in the group, um, which I love. And the job is not finished. There's more work to be done. And for those of you who are continuing down the DR96 path, that's great. Keep doing that. We're going to talk about that. For those of you who maybe aren't, or you want to switch it up a little bit, whatever, we're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. Um, so let me pull up my screen here. Hey, before I pull this up, man, just so y'all know, I'm gonna look at you. I be working hard to put these things together. I don't know if y'all noticed this. Maybe you're not in Pam, maybe you don't see it, right? Or maybe this is your first time in AJ. Listen, I be working hard putting these little presentations together, putting information in very thought out ways, right? Like, and I just collect them, right? I got all these presentations, and one day, they're gonna come together for something. I don't know what it is, but I hope y'all appreciate that, right? Because I found out years ago, when I started working to be a teacher, right, a teacher in wellness. I found out that the more senses that you can stimulate while you're teaching, um, the more knowledge people can retain. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to retain it, right? I mean, everyone's a little different, but the best you can do is try to stimulate as many senses as possible while you're teaching something. And if you can do that, they typically retain more information. So that's why I like to try to have at least some visuals, even if it's the same thing I'm going to talk about, right? If you visualize it or you see it, what it tends to do is hopefully you don't drift as much, especially when you're in a presentation like this where you're kind of you're sitting, or maybe you're just listening, right? And you're on your phone, and maybe you're cooking dinner for the family, or you're doing other things, or you're driving. Completely understand, right? But if you can take a little peek every once in a while, right? It can help you retain more information. So this is why I do it this way. Um, all right, y'all appreciate it. All right, good deal. All right, so let's get into it here. So we're going to talk about what's next, right? I've already done my intro, so we won't continue on that. But what's next? Now, first of all, before we can talk about what's next or what to do next, let's kind of start us from the beginning, right? And kind of briefly talk about our experience through the DR96. Now, what you're going to want to do is just take what you've learned from this challenge and you are going to want to apply it to your life. I don't want you to think of this challenge as a one time thing, but more as a time of learning. And that's the same thing that I say every challenge. If you remember, I said this in the very beginning, whether you stick it out to the end or whether you end up, you know, making a decision not to continue for whatever reason, our goal for HA, which I would speak for all of us, is for you to learn something and take it with you, right? So during the prep phase, you've all prepped, you would learn, or you should have learned, that this is a great way for you to maintain your weight or lose weight, right? Now, depending on how you did your prep, some people followed it to the letter. Some people did OMAD the entire time. Some people were doing a little fasting. They were doing intermittent fasting during prep, right? However you decided to do prep, this is going to teach you something, right? If you were doing prep and you were doing it properly, there's one thing that you did learn. You learned that you weren't gaining weight by eating that way. You weren't gaining weight by skipping breakfast and by changing your meals up and by doing 2 days of juice fasting once a week, right? This is a way that you can eat for the rest of your life and you will maintain or continue to slowly lose over the years, right? This is something that you should learn and take with you. Even if you don't join another challenge or this is a one-time thing for you, if you take that away from this, it's a win. Fasting, it's a tool, right? It's a tool that can help you at any point in life to decrease inflammation, to decrease weight, increase human growth hormones. So if you want to start getting into fitness, you don't have to. We talked about creatine and protein the other day. What did Mel say? I don't mess with all them teens except for routine, right? These are things that this is a tool that you have now learned that is in your tool belt that you can take out at any time. Let me give you an example. If you go to an event and, matter of fact, let me give you a better example. This is more realistic. You go on vacation, and on that vacation, man, I'm going with my friends, I'm going with the girls, I'm going with the boys, I'm going with family, and they want to party, yada, 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 whatever the case may be. You're not eating well. You're having a good time. You're on the beach. You're sipping mojitos, right, the whole time. You come back and you're up 10 pounds, right? This is a tool that you can use after that time. You can do a little fasting, right? Do if you've been eating well, do your little 2-3 day prep, right? Have you do an OMAD day, right? Actually, do a modified prep, right? Skip breakfast, have a large meal in the afternoon, a lighter meal in the evening, day 1. Day 2, right? You do OMAD, right? Have a nice big vegetable meal one time for that day. You got 1 hour, right? That's OMAD. And then on the third day, you do a juice fast, right? And then you can go into an R72, or you can do a 48-hour water fast or a 48-hour dry fast. And guess what? All of the damage that you had done during that time will be completely swept away by this tool that you now have in your tool belt. Now, we don't want to get into this into the routine of kind of abusing that, but understand that this is something that you can take out anytime that you feel you need to. If you feel that you've gone 2 months and you just have not done well, and you're like, man, I put on a couple pounds, these pants are getting a little tight. You know what? Let me go ahead and bust out a little a DR96 cycle, right? This is something that you can use along the way. And as you use this along your way, it's your job, or you have the benefit of being able to pull this out at any time that you feel that you need to, right? You got a vacation coming up. You have a wedding to attend. You need to fit in this dress. Right now, do we want to be in these situations where we're pulling these out? No. Ideally, we would be living as we should be. But let's be honest, That's just not life, right? Life has ups and downs. You're going to have times where you're on, you're going to have times where you're off, right? But make sure that you use these tools when you feel that they are appropriate. Chris went long on the Pam call. I'm going to have to watch the replay to catch the beginning of this. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I that's why I told everybody that he was on Pam, and I tried to give you guys a little bit. I was monologuing, but I think it's good to watch in general, right? Um we can act bagged and fast. Listen, no, is that a dance? That's not what I told you to do. That's not what I said. It is a tool. That's not what you should do, right? But it's a tool in your tool belt. You determine how you use it, right? Now, the refeed will provide you with insight on how foods interact with your body, how gently you should treat it, and the amount of food you should be eating now versus in the past. What do I mean by now versus the past? If you have been eating, whether it's on your refeed or you're still currently cycling, you should now notice that you can eat, or that you require less food for you to feel more full. This is your body literally telling you, this is the quantity of food that I should be eating. This is not just, oh, I'm fasting and I lost my appetite. No, this is your body saying, this is the quantity of food that I should be eating in general. Doesn't matter if it's 1,400 calories, 2,000 calories. That's a lot of that stuff is just, they're just magical numbers. Everyone is so different. You can tell somebody, oh yeah, men are supposed to eat 2,500 calories if you're X and X weight, right? There's all these different factors that go into all that. Your body will tell you. And the best way to figure that out is to start eating after you've been fasting, and your body will tell you, this is enough food, right? So what you want to do is pay attention to that, how full you are after a certain amount of food, after you're fasting, as you're going through your refeed. And this will tell you the amount of food that you typically should be eating when you're not fasting, because it's a very big difference. The pumpkin seeds don't taste the same. Well, taste buds change. All right. So let's talk a little bit about weight gain after fasting. Now, we touched on this, and I just wanted to touch on it again. Very similar to what we talked about in the last live. But a common mistake we think after fasting is that we gain, the weight that we gain is fat, or the same weight that we previously, that we lost previously, just coming back. This is completely untrue, and we need to truly understand that. Like, we need to, I can't drill this in your mind enough. Learning comes through repetition. So the weight that you lost is different than the weight that you may have seen gain as you've been refeeding. They're not the same. Now, understand this. There's a caveat to that. Now, if you are eating the same way you ate prior to fasting, this don't apply to you. Now, if you go back to eating trash, and y'all know what trash is, I don't have to explain that. You know what trash is, right? But if you go back to eating the same way prior to fasting, you will gain fat back, as fat stores are used to store excess energy. So, to make this as clear as possible, if you are overeating, if you're overeating on processed food, if you're overeating on whole foods, if you are overeating, which means when you're done, you're stuffed and you feel stuffed, you are going to store something as fat. Period. Doesn't matter what it is. If you're overeating, you will store fat, or we'll call it weight or excess energy in the fat cells, right? We don't want to store it in the fat cells. So it's very important to, once again, going back to that refeed section, it's very important to understand eating slowly, especially after fasting, because it will tell you how much quantity you should be eating, right? This is why you don't want to just simply say, oh, well, I'm counting calories. Bro, don't do that. After fasting, your body's going to tell you exactly how much you can have. Okay. Now, if you're eating a whole food based diet, chewing slowly, and minimizing the food that you ate, you are gaining weight from water in the food and simply hydration being stored in the body, right? This is just natural. Once again, we've spoke about this. That's going to happen. Now, we know this to be true due to most people who measure themselves via taping or electronic measurements will see a decrease in fat BMI, an increase in water levels, but may be at the exact same weight from when they began fasting, right? We also know this to be true due to clothes continuing to fit loosely even after minor weight gain. So there are some people, and myself included in the past, where and I've had clients where they've done fasting and then they've started their refeed, and maybe they didn't lose a ton during the fast, right? Maybe they lost 15 pounds or whatever. They felt like things were fitting them better, rings were getting looser, pants were getting a little looser, and then a week or so into the refeed, they gained like 9 pounds. They're like, "Oh my God, Steven, I've just completely ruined all my progress." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let's look at the numbers. Did you measure yourself today?" Like, "Yes, I did." I'm like, "Okay, well, what'd they say?" Right? They give me the numbers. I'm like, "These are basically the same numbers as last week. They didn't change, right? How are your clothes fitting? They still fit fine, right? Still loose, right? I mean, feel great." And this is something that multiple people, even in the challenge, have even experienced. Right? When we spoke about water, people were had these scales that were testing water, and they saw water levels increasing, fat mass decreasing, but they're dry fasting. So it's very important to understand what's actually happening, and we really need to understand that. Now, once again, to be clear, if you are eating bad food, the weight that you are gaining is not just water. You're storing fat. If you're overeating, even if you're eating good stuff, but if you constantly walk away from your plate and you're like, "Whoo, I'm stuffed," right? You're overeating. And that can happen on fruits as well. Very rarely, right? Because how fruits are, but it can happen. Be careful with your root vegetables, right? Be careful with them potatoes. Um, be mindful of that stuff. So even vegetables and stuff, right? So how can we kind of sort of minimize weight gain? Typically, you're going to notice this is what you would typically notice, and some people may have noticed this. Some people a little bit different depending on where you are, but you may notice a spike in weight and then a slow plateau in the gains, and then a slight drop after that. So you may notice a spike, kind of a slow plateau, and then a little bit of a drop, and then kind of this plateau. Okay. This is the body starting to relearn and normalize. Now, for those of you, there was a book club that I saw that had started talking about the Phoenix Protocol, and this is in the Phoenix Protocol. But that protocol is an 11-day dry fast, if I believe. But it talks about how long it takes after the fast for the body to begin to normalize. Now, if you do a long dry fast like 11 days, 10, 11 days, right, there's a 14-day time period where the body is relearning. A dry fast is extremely powerful, and you truly reset after that time. So it takes about 2 weeks for the body to actually normalize. Now, the good thing about normalizing is that you get to teach your body at this point what is now normal, right? So it's of the utmost important after dry fasting that you teach your body how to eat, how to metabolize by what you give it and the amount that you give it. You set the bar during this time period. So if you are overeating, the body is going to stretch the stomach and is going to then say, "Oh, well, I'm expecting X amount of calories, and I'm going to start storing all the stuff that I don't use." Right. So if you're giving it just a little bit here and there, a little bit, it starts getting used to only having that amount. And then it's like, well, all this other stored energy we don't need. Stored energy, fat. Right. So you continue to increase your metabolism by doing different things. Right. That's why it's a great time to begin light exercise. Um, to help increase the metabolism, right? Incorporate citrus fruits in your daily diet, whether it's lemon water or whether you're just having a grapefruit for breakfast, right? Or you just have an orange for lunch. Citrus fruits are amazing, not only for digestion, but they're also great for your metabolism, detoxification, right? So these are all little different ways that you can kind of teach your body after dry fasting how to how to operate and how you want it to operate moving forward, right? Have heavier lunches and lighter dinners, right? We've been taught backwards. We've been taught that oh, you have breakfast, which in America, it's still breakfast is still heavy, right? Your lunch is even heavier, and then your dinner is the heaviest, right? We've been taught completely backwards. Number one, we should be skipping breakfast. Your largest meal, if you're going to have breakfast, it needs to be light, right? Your largest meal should be at lunch, and then your dinner meal should be the smallest, right? Because obviously you're not going to be moving around as much, right? You want to eat your largest meal when you are the most active. That's going to be your lunchtime. So we've been taught backwards, so we have to relearn. So this is a great time to teach your body, of course, right? So eat foods like stewed vegetables, super easy to digest, right? Put some vegetables, just get creative. Put some vegetables in a pot, put a small half an inch of or an inch of water in there, and just run them on medium high, and just kind of let them just chill, right? Let them kind of break down a little bit. Though you eat leafy greens, they have extreme mineral content, things that we need. We talked about mineral deficiencies and how so many of us struggle with different things, and it's like detoxing is one of it, but also a lot of us are mineral deficient. There's things that we struggle with, right? So for example, the term of cramps came up a lot, right? This is not just you needing electrolytes. You have a serious mineral deficiency if you're constantly getting cramps, right? Same with headaches. There's all these different things that happen when we're mineral deficient, and a lot of times because we're not getting them. You can look at the back of a package of food, and it's like, oh, there's iron in this and calcium. All that stuff is non-organic. If you're eating processed food, it's non-organic. Your body is not utilizing that. We need to get this from our whole foods. So many of us are mineral deficient. So making sure that we're getting leafy greens, making sure that we start incorporating sea vegetables, right? Fermented foods in your diet. We can teach our body a new way to live and metabolize foods. And this is a great time to do it. Focus on I saw somebody said make sure you eat slow, right? All these things are important. Um hmm. Hey, Gloria, that's awesome. I'm so scared to gain weight on my to gain too much on of my weight back that on refeed I only hydrate and I'm ready for the DR again. I only gained 2 pounds on my refeed, right? So this is great. Now, I don't know if you're only drinking liquids or if you're eating as well, but after you come off the fast, especially we've already done 2 rounds. After you come off, it's much easier to eat less. You get much more satisfied on less food. And the good thing is that this continues time after time after time again. And you will find that as you go through this process, you'll desire less and less and less. So to kind of get to the I guess what we're all here for, right? That was all good information, right? Let's get into this a little bit more. So let's talk about progressing forward and what you can do, and we'll end up with what you should not be doing. Okay. Now, let's say you're going to continue the DR96 cycle. Y'all see these visuals I try to give you, right? Look at this. Progressing forward. We got the road here. Come on, man. Y'all see what I'm doing here? All right. Continue the DR96 cycle. So what you're going to do is you're going to just continue as you're still in the challenge. There's no need to do another prep phase, right? You'll just keep cycling week after week, even if you have done a small or a full 7-day refeed. So if some people have asked, like, okay, well, I want to do the full 7-day refeed, great, go for it. Do I need to do the prep again? No. If you are refeeding properly, as is outlined, and you're eating well and you're eating clean and you're focused on not overeating, then you don't need to do another prep, right? As soon as you finish that 7th day, you can do like a half day of food, or you can do OMAD, right? So if you're deciding I'm going to do the full 7-day refeed, and then which would be right now you would be eating, and then on Sunday you would do OMAD, right? So you do you'd have a meal during the day, and then you do juice, and then on Monday you start the DR96. That's a great way to kind of move through this, but you don't need to go through a full 7-day prep. Okay. Now, this is something that you may want to screenshot for all of you who have asked me, Stephen, how long do I need to do these cycles in order to lose X many pounds or this amount of weight, right? This is what I do. I've been giving y'all the juice. This is what I do for clients that I'm working with, right, on a consistent basis, right? Not somebody who I usually don't do this for, someone who just has one call, but like my monthly clients, this is what I do so I can figure out the amount of weight that they would lose and how long on average it's going to take them. Now, this is what you're going to do. Like I said, screenshot this so you guys have this and you can do your own calculations, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to take your weight loss from cycle number 1. This, please understand, please, this does not include prep, right? So when I say cycle 1, this is going to be from Monday. So our first cycle of the DR96, and then Saturday morning, that's one full cycle. So Saturday you'd be eating. So from Monday when you started your fast until Saturday before you ended your fast, how much weight was that? Not including prep. I need to say that again. This number cannot include prep. You only take numbers from actual periods of fasting. Then you're going to take the second set of numbers from your second cycle, and then you're going to average them together. So you're going to take the first cycle, so Monday to Saturday, how much did you lose? I have an example here. We're going to say it was 10 pounds, right? The second cycle, you take the amount of weight that you lost, right? So that Monday, so you would have refed over the weekend, and then Monday you weighed in, Saturday you weighed in. What was that number? Let's say it's 7 pounds, right? So in our example, cycle 1, you lost 10 pounds. Cycle 2, you lost 7 pounds. This is 17 pounds in total in the 2 cycles, not including prep, right? You're then going to divide those 17 pounds by 2 because it was 2 cycles, right? Now, in this example, that's going to bring us to 8.5 pounds, right? This number is what we will call our average weight loss to expect. I was trying to see if that could be an acronym, but I just said whatever, right? Our average weight loss to expect. In order for you to get this number, you need to go through a few phases of fasting, right? The more phases of fasting you go through, the more accurate this number is going to be, okay? But obviously, as of right now, we only have 2 phases. That's what we have to use, okay? So we take that 8.5. So if let's say that you wanted to lose an additional 70 pounds, right? You came off the DR96. You said, Stephen, I need to lose 70 more pounds. How long do I need to fast? Okay, great. Well, we see that you have an average weight loss to expect of 8.5. And then, of course, if we divide the 70 pounds divided by an average of 8.5 pounds per cycle, it gives us an average of 8.2 cycles that we need to go through, right? Now, what I then do is then I add in two cycles, but just add 2 because we need to factor in shrink weeks. Because as you go through this process, you are going to experience shrink weeks. You're going to experience times where weight loss comes to a screeching halt, right? This is a good thing. This is something that we want to experience. When we add the 2 weeks or the 2 to the 8.2 cycles that we got, this is going to give us 10.2 cycles, which is about 2.5 months. Okay. I'm sorry, 10 and a half months. Did I say 2.5? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. 10.2 cycles, which is about 2.5 months. So if you came to me and said, Stephen, I need to lose 70 more pounds, right? You have about 2.5 months of this cycle. Now, that number, depending on, of course, so many different factors, that number could go a little bit higher. It could go lower, right? So you don't necessarily have to do the 2.5 months, right? Your refeed, for example, is going to play a major role in how fast you can get through that 70 pounds, right? Because we're not factoring in how much weight that you gained during these refeeds, right? We're not factoring in as the fact of like, well, I didn't do well and I gained 4 pounds. No, we're just literally looking at losses, right? From Monday till Saturday morning. That's how we're getting these averages. So if on the first 2 cycles you were like, man, I didn't refeed well and I gained 5 pounds for the refeed, great. That means as you go through these cycles and you will be losing or you'll be gaining less during your refeeds, that means that there's less time that you have to go through these periods. There's less cycles you have to go through. If you find that you are eating worse and you're not eating well and you're gaining almost as much as you're losing, yes, is it depending on what you're eating, is it fat? No. But is it weight? Yeah. And the weight still has to come off again, right? So screenshot that. And now you don't have to ask, Stephen, how long do I need to fast to lose X and X amount of pounds? You now have a formula that you can use to go through this process. I guess no giant bowl of watermelon for me. Watermelon's good. I mean, just don't go crazy. Ooh, great question. Not being sarcastic, but are we ever done detoxing? Seems like a daily practice. The answer is no. No, you're not. You're never done detoxing. Why? Because the air we breathe is toxic. The food that we eat is sprayed with chemicals and pesticides. Right. You go outside and literally, like when I started my detailing business, because I have a car detailing business, I don't detail as much anymore. I'm doing them here and there. The amount of chemicals that are used, and I had to learn about detoxing paint because there's so many chemicals on the road. And when cars drive down the road and it's raining, there's oil and there's environmental toxins and all this stuff gets stuck in the paint. And I had to learn how to use multiple different other chemicals and mechanical procedures to remove those toxins from the paint. And then guess what? After a few months, the paint gets contaminated again. The paint is no longer smooth and I have to detox it again. Right? So it's an ever-going process. Now, the great thing is your body and your liver does an amazing job at detoxing. It's always detoxing. What we're doing is we're just helping it along the way. All right, let me speed up a little. Actually, we're almost done. All right, so that's number one. If you're gonna continue, you can continue. That's what you want to do, and you now have a formula to know how long I need to go. Now, number two, I want to adjust my fasting cycle a little bit. And this is great because I saw somebody talking about this a little bit ago. If you found that the DR96 was too difficult or too easy, you can change your cycle to match how you felt during the challenge. You can you can decrease to a DR48 schedule. We're not going to go over that because Chris has put a whole thing in the group for it, right? So you can decrease. One thing I didn't add is you can increase. So if you want to do more than 4 days, you can do that, right? Because I have people that I worked with, right, during this time that it calls with me, that were like, honestly, I felt great. And literally just had water and juice on their refeeds and then went right into the next cycle. And they're like, I feel great. I don't feel like I need to eat. Well, maybe you should increase your dry fast days. Go for it, right? All you have to do if you're going to increase is just make sure that you still follow the procedure of whenever you decide to break your fast, you do a day of water and juice. That's the most important part. So if you want to do 6 days, 7 days, go for it. Granted, if you feel like you can do it, go for it, right? Just remember that no matter what, you have to make sure that you break with water and then juice, okay? You can move into an R72 schedule, which is a water fast. You can go into a 5-2 water fast, right? If you're like, well, I don't, dry fast a little hard, you can go into a water fast. If you're feeling frisky and you're like, man, I want to kick it up a notch, you can go into a 10-2 or a 14-2, which is no joke whatsoever, but I've done plenty of them, right? One of my favorite types of fasts are long-term juice fasts. If you've never done a long-term juice fast, I suggest 30 days. if you're planning on doing a long-term juice fast, if you want to do a 3-day juice fast, go for it. But if you say, Steven, I want to do a long-term juice fast, 30 days, right? I promise you, it's so much easier than it sounds. But that's going to be based mainly with green juice. So if you're doing a long-term juice fast, here's the ounces. I'm giving y'all all the juice, right? Literally. 64 ounces of green juice, 32 ounces of citrus juice, 32 ounces of water. Those are your ratios if you want to do a long-term juice fast. This is a great way to get all the benefits, tons of benefits from fasting, because you still get the same benefits from fasting, and it's easier than dry fasting and water fasting. Now, if your only thought process, I want to lose as much weight as possible as fast, juice fasting isn't the way. You're going to lose weight. You'll lose plenty of weight, but it is the slowest weight loss out of the 3 types of fasting. Okay, but it's faster than OMAD. It's faster than alternate day fasting with just water. It's faster than those. But if you want to compare long term to long term, it's the slowest. But if you're worried about deficiencies, juice fasting is a great way to work on that. If you're dealing with gut issues, juice fast is a way to work with that. If you have digestive issues, juice fasting is a great way to work. I can't talk. I'm so excited. Juice fasting is a great way to work on that, right? I love juice fasting, and I don't know, man. I really want to do a long-term juice fast, like a 21-day with the group. But I know for some people, it's so much because if you're going to do a 21-day juice fast, you need a juicer. You're not going to be able to do that by buying it. It's going to be too expensive. No matter the type of fasting you choose, if you feel to begin to get too worn down mentally or find yourself eating improperly on your refeed days, here's what I suggest, right? Take a solid 5 to 7 day refeed period. This is going to help you mentally reset where you're at and take the stress off yourself from fasting. After long periods of fasting and knowing you will not be able to eat again for a few days can cause us to have what I call last meal syndrome. And some of you probably already know exactly what that means without explaining it. Just knowing I have to fast tomorrow, so I'm going to eat everything I can today. And then a lot of times you don't even end up fasting and you just overeat for no reason. But what you can definitely decrease the amount of how you feel of wanting to eat that meal if you take a nice 5 to 7 day break. It just gives you that mental rest. Set the ghrelin be off the charts of that juice. I will say this. If you were talking about short-term juice fasting, it can make you hungry. When you get into this, is why I said this, I just want to be clear. This is why I specifically said long-term juice fasting. Because when you're long-term juice fasting, it's very different. You don't get hungry. You don't really get thirsty. It's I did a 65-day juice fast. 65. My records are 30-day water, 10-day dry, 65-day juice. There's hunger is just non-existent. So now short term, yes, it can make you feel that way. Last meal syndrome. Yeah, it's a real thing. Okay. All right. Last one. Dietary supplemental detox. Now, believe it or not, I think this is where a lot of people are actually going to end up at. Not intentionally, but I think this is just what's going to happen. Now, this can be done even after fasting. So I don't want you to think, well, I'm doing the DR96 for 5 more cycles, and now what? This is what you do, right? So for people that are continuing on the first 2 options, if you're like, well, Steven, what do we do after that, right? I'm giving you steps in front of steps in front of steps. You then come down here. Dietary supplemental detox. Now, during this time, you will be eating, but I do suggest doing some form of fasting, right? Now you may include supplements at this point, right? So you may include vitamins, different herbs, things of that nature, right? Other different detoxes, right? But this period is a time where you're going to include 1 to 3 days of fasting per week. But the main goal of this period is to focus on eating habits and also cleansing. So not just eating, but also cleansing. Let me say that again. Eating and also cleansing. Because a lot of times what happens is, and this is I've heard this way too many times, and I've done this myself, where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna focus on just doing some detoxing, but not fasting, right? Which includes eating, but then I end up just eating and eating. I'm not doing bad while I'm eating, but I'm not also cleansing. So in this period, it's important not to just eat well, but you're also doing some form of detoxification as well. So I've given you a list of some good cleanses that I found to be very helpful. For those of you who have been around, some of these may sound familiar. For those that are new, maybe you've never heard these before, right? So the first one is Dr. Bobby Price, his detox. It's a 28-day detox kit. You can buy them separately, but I suggest to get them together. It's the tummy tea and the parasite tea. You have to eat a certain way during this time. Primarily going to be fruit and vegetable based, and you're going to be taking these herbs during this time as well. You're going to lose weight 100%, and you're going to cleanse your body out. Yaki Awakens 3 bitters. Once again, there's a protocol for eating as well. And these bitters are called 3 bitters for a reason. They are no joke. They do not taste good, and they are going to cleanse you out something fierce. Be mindful with these. They're extremely powerful. Um, Professor Arnold Ehret's mucusless transition diet. Now, this is an 8-week protocol. It doesn't necessarily call for herbs or any supplements, but there's a very specific way that you have to eat, and you'll lose weight on this as well. You'll continue to lose inflammation, and this is great information for just learning how to eat in general, right? The Amazing Liver and Gallbladder Flush by Andreas Moritz, of course, a favorite of AJ. Now, this one is the only one that is a 7-day protocol, but the reason I added this here is because you can do the liver and gallbladder flush essentially with any other one of these programs as well. Okay, so all you would simply do, because the eating portion is all in alignment with the Amazing Liver and Gallbladder Flush. All you would simply do is you would add, of course, your tart cherry or your apple juice to the protocol, and then, of course, on your flush day, you would follow the flush protocol on that day, and then you would just continue back with your eating after that. Okay, and then the last one is the Liver Rescue Cleanse by the Medical Medium. I thoroughly enjoyed this cleanse myself. Liver Rescue is an amazing book, which taught me a lot of information. Some people, he's very spiritual in nature, and some people couldn't get past that, but the information is solid. So now, of course, there's tons of other things that you can do. There's other supplements, there's other herbs you can take, right? There's all these different things that you can do. If you're going to take herbs or do any cleansing or organ cleansing, it's a great time to include those while you're doing any one of these protocols, right? Because they all really are in alignment with each other. And then, of course, you can add a day or 2 or 3 of fasting into each one of these as well, right? Every few days, you can do a day, or you can do 2, or you can do 3 days. You can still take your herbs, or you can do it. And this will, of course, increase your weight loss. Now, these are all suggested because I've done them before. Every single one of these I've done. So this is not just me just flipping through the internet and just finding different cleanses. Every single one of these I've done, and I've had success in each one of these before. Ebony, 30 days was my longest single water fast, where I didn't have anything but water. Most of my water fasting has been the longest on average, I'll say, is between 14 and 21. Those I was doing a lot of long-term water fasts, 14 to 21 days. What happens if you break the fast with juice? I'm assuming you're talking about dry fasting. You're going to hold even more weight when you're breaking it with juice. I mean, we do add juice in the second half of the day. You're not going to like kill yourself or anything like that. You're just going to hold more of it because there's more in juice to hold. There's way more nutrition, electrolytes, all this. So the more that you have inside of it, the more the body's going to hold on to it. So this is why we start with juice. so that we, start with water so that way we can kind of get the body going and letting it know, hey, we're going to be now bringing stuff back in. The digestion ramps up very slowly. When you add juice, digestion ramps up way more. So we're just creating that nice little gradient. All right. And to wrap up, at the end of the day, there's multiple ways that you can move forward that will help you maintain your weight loss or continue your weight loss journey. Wherever you are, whether you have 100 or 150 or 200 pounds more to lose, any one of those options that I gave you are going to be beneficial. There's way more directions that you can move that are positive for you than negative for you, right? Out of the three options, you don't have a wrong choice. Whichever direction that you want to choose, it's completely up to you. As long as you're consistent with it, it's all good, right? Or you can start, right, with DR96. And let's say you want to do 5 cycles, but you only end up doing 2 more. You can decrease it. Drop it down to the 48. Drop it down to a water fast. Steven said a 30-day juice fast is great. I want to try a juice fast, right? You're dropping it down. Dropping it, right? Then you get to the point where you're like, you know what? Maybe I'm ready to do some long-term eating to work on my eating habits. Let me try out one of these cleanses that Steven suggested, right? All you're doing is walking things down. And as long as you're doing any one of those things, you're going to be in a good situation, right? Now, the only wrong choice is to go back to doing exactly what you were doing before. There's only one wrong choice. There's so many right choices, but there's one wrong choice. And that's to go back to what you were doing before. Now, just because there's only one wrong choice, the wrong choice is actually the easiest choice to make, unfortunately. Right? But I just want you to know that there's so many other options that even if you don't want to continue fasting because you're like, listen, this is my first time fasting, I need a little break, fantastic. That's why I gave you all those different other options to use, right? This is a great time to reteach yourself how to eat, right? Now, if there's one thing I can promise you is that if you go the wrong route, right, you're going to regain all of your weight that you lost and more. I guarantee it. You're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel slightly depressed, right? You're going to be putting yourself in a much worse situation than when you were when you began. Now, when I say that, I mean long-term, right? Because if you lost 20 pounds and then in a month and a half or so, you gain 20 pounds back, you're still detoxed way more than you were before. Like, understand that. Right? It's not all doom and gloom. There's a lot of benefits that you got during this time period. Not just weight. Weight doesn't tell the whole story, right? All them toxins, they took years to add up. They came out in large amounts during this fasting period, right? So even when the numbers still don't look good, right? Just know that you still did something positive and you still have that tool in your tool belt that you can take out at any time. We have to ensure that we take at least one thing that we've learned and apply it to our daily lives. There's so much that we've learned in this challenge. We have 6 different coaches who have taught throughout this time frame. There's something that you have learned, right? Apply one thing that you have learned every day. And that's all you need to do. You're going to be moving in the right direction, right? Whether it's continuing the DR96, choosing a different style of fasting, or focusing on a dietary detox protocol, focus on doing something and then join us for the next challenge, right? Make sure that you stay locked in. There are people that have been in these challenges and they've done, I haven't actually, someone I'm thinking about, I haven't seen them in a while, but they had lost over 100 pounds and they were only doing challenges, right? We have them periodically enough to where you can just join challenges and lose over 100 pounds, right? And just take the information that you learned from the challenge and then just eat well in between. But make sure you join us for the next one so you can continue to learn. As always, perfection is not needed, but consistency is a must. Just stay on top of your game, right? This is a long distance run. It's not a sprint. There's no rush to the finish line. You're just going to continue one step at a time. If you've ever, last thing, quick story, and we'll wrap up. I a few years ago, I met a girl, and interestingly enough, we met on a dating site, and we we talked for a little bit, but we never like. She lived in California, but we never like got to the point where we're like, oh, we're gonna start dating, right? And I'm gonna flip back to this other page so you guys can screenshot that if you didn't. This list. Um, but as we just continue talking, she was just telling me about her hobbies, and she was like this long distance runner. And I was like, "Oh my god, that's so cool. Like, I wish you were closer. Like, I would love to do like some photos as like of you running, yada yada yada." Like, I was really just starting to get into photography. She was like, "Oh, I'm going to Chicago in a few weeks for the Chicago Marathon." And I was like, "Oh my god, that's so dope. You know what? Chicago's not far from me. I'm going to fly out there and I'm going to take photos of you." Right? And she was like, "What? For real?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Come on." And I ended up going out, and I went downtown. I went to the Bean, if you guys know Chicago, and I was down there at 6 a.m. It was dusk, right? It was still dark, and as the light was coming up, or as the sun was coming up, I'm taking photos of her run team, and then I have tons of photos of her as she's like going through the marathon, and it was such an amazing time. It was like 25 miles or whatever it was, right? And through this marathon, I saw so many different people, right? People young, people old, right? And one of the main things is that even when they stopped running, they kept walking. They kept moving. They never stopped. I never saw anyone just stop and just walk off the path and was like, "I'm done." Right? The entire time they were moving. Right? I've watched older people. I mean, literally, I'm talking the smallest steps, or if you're running the smallest little inches forward that you can go, I saw them doing that. And I watched these people get to the end, right? I looked at the times, and some of them were hours behind my friend when she finished. And it blew my mind that no matter what, these people just didn't stop. And if you don't stop, you will get to where you want to go. That's it. You just have to keep moving forward every day. Somehow find a way to move forward. Even if that is you having a bad afternoon, you skip breakfast and you had a smoothie and a salad for lunch, and if you end up having pizza for dinner, guess what? You're still moving forward. Is it the best day? Absolutely not. But you didn't have bacon and all this crap for breakfast, and you didn't have a cheesesteak for lunch and the pizza, right? So is it the best day? No. That's a small step forward for that day. Right? That's it. Just keep moving forward. There you go. I will continue until I get there. That's all you got to do. It will happen. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. You're going to have periods of time in life where things don't go well. You're going to have times when you gain weight, you're going to have times where you lose a lot of weight, right? But if you just keep moving forward little by little, even when you're gaining, right? You're still moving forward and you're building habits. In the long run, things will all work out. So, Melly Mel, very helpful information. I'm glad that this call was informative. I hope that you all intend to continue on this journey. And I know John has a call tomorrow, so make sure that you join that. We're working to maintain our activity and interaction with you all as we finish the challenge before the group closes. So make sure you keep pushing forward. And when the next challenge launches, make sure that you listen out for it and join us for the next one. And if you guys have any questions, of course, you can always email me. And with that being said, thanks again. Have a great evening, and God bless. Peace.